Welcome in, Moose Knucklers. We are officially in the last week of July. You know what comes in August, right? Draft time, boys. We are just a few weeks away from the ultimate showdown. How you guys feeling this evening?
I'm feeling pretty great. We got training camps kicking off all across the league. Just gets me excited. Only one more month to go, boys. Chris, how you feeling?
Dude, I am on Instagram just watching the reels of every single training camp. I love it. And training camp it's back. Like, football is back, guys. And just watching the press conferences afterwards, even with like the head coaches, it's like, this is why we do this, right? This is why we do this.
Absolutely. Energy is high. Training camps are starting. We're starting to see some of those pieces kind of fall together for our teams, and whether they be fantasy or actual NFL teams. But we got some NFL news and notes, man. You want to help us kick it off here?
You bet I do. Let me fire off some NFL news and notes with a little Kyler Murray. NFL Network reports Murray's new contract with the Arizona Cardinals includes a requirement to complete at least 4 hours of, quote, independent study per game week during this season. Murray, who's 25 years old, got himself a $230 million deal, 160 of it being guaranteed. He might need to put less time into his active Twitch account and more time into studying material provided to him by Cardinals staff. Guys, what do you think of the Cardinals' act here, putting this on display for the public to dissect? There's been prior rumblings that Murray wasn't the most dedicated film guy. This move appears to be confirming that.
You know, he's a two-time professional athlete, right? He could have gone the baseball route. He, decided to stick with the NFL. I'm glad he finally got paid, but we all love video games, man. Let the kid play a little video games, get on Twitch. Like, no issue with it. He's still, one of the top 7 fantasy football quarterbacks this year. So I do love him. Sorry, Tony, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, like you said, he's young. He's still young. He's still got a lot to learn. He's still a lot to, on the defensive side, definitely learn. Other teams' defenses, right? Those don't always change year to year. So continuing to see those evolve, I think will take him a lot further this season.
A quarterback shouldn't have any issue with studying at least 4 hours a week. Hell, I think we put close to 4 hours a week into this nonsensical podcast. Guys, I'll move on if I may. Let's look at some helmets. The NFL recently announced that 13 teams have planned to sport new alternative or throwback helmets for the start of training camp, and they'll be wearing them in at least one game. Well, Cowboys have 2 helmets because, of course, Dallas. But with this announcement, the public reaction seems to be generally a positive one. Many similar themes between the teams, a lot of them bringing in their historic franchise logos, while others just going with a blacked out look. Guys, have you had the chance to view these helmets for the upcoming season? And could I get a quick top 3 as well as maybe a worst rank helmet for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, seeing my hometown Bears in that orange, my favorite color, man. It looked great, and you couple that with the jersey, I love it. But even let's remove the orange from the Bengals. That thing is fierce. It's a cross between a Bengal and a freaking zebra. I love that thing. How about you, Chris?
So like my favorite throwback is the Giants. Like, it's super classy. I think the Giants did a really good job with like bringing in Saquon Barkley to show off that jersey. It wasn't crazy on them bringing in LT, but whatever. But worst is gotta be the Bears. I'm just not a fan of the orange. And my favorite on the ultimate is definitely the Bengals as well. The white on white on white on white is going to be look clean.
Yeah, the Bengal Tiger helmets. That's number 1 ranked for me easily. But number 2, that you guys didn't mention very much is that Patriots Pat Patriot red, white, and blue helmet, originally worn in the 1960 season. I think that is absolutely baller. And then shout out to the Carolina, those black helmets, that satin black with the blue striping. I'm a big fan of that look as well. I think for my worst ranked one, I'm going to go with the Saints helmet, the tiny fleur-de-lis kind of design going up the middle. Just, it's not doing it for me. I really like the old school kind of gold helmets that the Saints have.
Yeah, that Panther color scheme gets pretty close to another color scheme I know. Not too far off.
But Tony, I think we got some NFL roster changes we need to talk about.
Yeah, man. 33-year-old Julio Jones will be joining 45-year-old Tom Brady in Tampa Bay this year as the Bucks sign Julio to a one-year deal worth $6 million. He'll be leaving Tennessee, be reunited with his old buddy Russell Gage. Not sure how happy Russell is with that, but I'm sure he welcomed him with a forced smile. Welcome back, buddy. What do you guys think? Do you guys like this deal? And is it fantasy relevant? And how do you think he fits in once Chris Godwin comes back?
Schefter, of course, also had the follow-up. Packers also had interest tweet, the classic Packers had interest tweet. Yeah. So they come, and then Pack quickly comes out and say, all these hype pieces about Alan Lazard and claim the Packers were never trying to find a veteran wideout to join the team. Sure, Green Bay, sure. But back to Julio. Sadly, Julio probably doesn't offer much for fantasy on the Bucks. I almost look at it as kind of hurtful in terms of other Tampa offensive playmakers and their fantasy value. How do you see it, Chris?
Yeah, this confuses the hell out of me. We're going to break down our wide receiver rankings, but maybe it means Godwin's not where he's supposed to be at this time, right? We were hyping up Russell Gage, like maybe something's going on with Russell Gage, like Fournette, who caught over 80 passes last year, came in fat this year, right? Like I don't get this signing. Julio wasn't that impressive last year on a playoff caliber team, so a little bit of a head scratcher. Maybe he's ring chasing, but. For your Packers, man, I still think there's some good wide receivers out there for them to get next few weeks.
Agreed. Let's stick to the topic of old players in the NFL. CL Seahawks, Chris Carson, set to retire. Just a little back history on Chris Carson. He was drafted by the Seahawks in the 7th round, 2017. So he's only played with Seattle for 5 seasons and now retiring. His best years, you guys might remember, 2019, where he rushed for 1,200 yards, 37 receptions for 266 yards, and 9 total touchdowns. Nothing crazy to write about. Nothing that probably broke our fantasy top 10 or 20. But hey, it was a good run, Chris.
Yeah, I think he was just always one of those guys that you kind of drafted like in the 4th and 5th round, and it's like, God, maybe he cracks like a top 15, and like you said, he did in 2019, but that's about it. Dietrich, you have any Chris Carson memories? Was he ever on any of your fantasy teams?
I feel like he might have contributed over the years, but I think he was always a favorite of Pete Carroll. I mean, he always kept him high on the depth chart. I think he was a powerful runner, so Chris Carson will be missed in the NFL. I think at least. And then Rashad Penny, yeah, you elevate him a little bit. Ken Walker, we'll see what comes of that as in his rookie season. So maybe a little bit to be excited about for the Seattle backfield.
Absolutely. And speaking of hard runners, the Jaguars will not put James Robinson on the PUP list to begin the season. He was in training camp doing a little light work today. It sounds like he's ahead of schedule, which, everyone is high on ETN this year, drafting him as early as the 3rd round. If they're able to get James Conner, they're probably thinking, hey, I'd rather wait for James Robinson, not James Conner, in the 5th or 6th round. What are your thoughts?
I think it makes you think twice about ETN and that high draft capital you're going to have to invest in him. I do think in a PPR league, you're still going to get that upside there. Something to keep in the back of your head, though, because James Robinson, his ADP is going to climb too. You think they might end up leveling out pretty soon here, Tony? If the news continues to trend positive for James Robinson, maybe these two kind of line up next to one another in upcoming drafts.
Yeah, absolutely. If it becomes a committee, I mean, these guys are both very talented. James Robinson is absolutely the time to show, but I would see James maybe getting a little bit more if he's healthy come week 1.
As a fan of the team, what I would love to see is like the old school Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, early in Kamara's years. That would be very entertaining for me. But Tony, this one's for you. Your boy Roquan Smith has not reported to training camp as he holds out for a new contract. Like, pay the man, Virginia. Butkus, Ditka, Singletary, Urlacher, Briggs, Mack, Smith, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But as an update, as of early this morning, I think he did show up to camp. I know there was trade rumors. Yeah, but that was today. So sorry, Chris, to burst your news bubble, but my boy's at camp, and we ready. And hopefully we don't trade him. Hopefully those rumors are false, right? Let's keep this man in here. Let's make him a dynasty for sure.
I agree, but there's another guy who showed up for camp, and that was Deebo Samuel this year, right, D?
He showed up to camp, but I think he's working on the side. He's still, I mean, it costs players a lot of money now to skip camp with all the kind of fines that they can get attributed to. So they kind of work off to the side and don't participate in team activity. It's like you didn't show up to camp, but you did, just in order to avoid fines. So he's there. He's still hoping for the mega deal to be had.
So kind of like showing up to class in high school, but the teacher sent you in the hallway. So you were at school, but you weren't in class, right?
Yeah, I think you took a nap. Right. You took a nap at your desk, perhaps, during that period.
Understood. But I think you've got some Moose Knuckle updates, buddy. What do we got?
Yeah. So shifting gears. Oh, yeah, NASCAR puns. To talk about the Moose Knuckle League, and our league determines draft order each and every year with a NASCAR race. Each team manager selects their driver, rooting them on to set their spot in the upcoming draft. That's how we each set ourselves up for success here in the Moose Knuckle. Tony Vester once again selecting a first-place driver in Denny Hamlin, with Kyle Busch being rooted on by the beer man, Evan, getting second place. Or so we thought, because, well, in a stunning turn of events, third place, Chase Elliott, owned by this guy, has been declared the winner of Sunday's M&M's Fan Appreciation 400 after Hamlin and Busch were disqualified after they both failed post-race inspections. The Moose Knuckler Commish Beaumont released a statement later that evening saying the league would retain the draft order based on the original finish of the race. Chris, I've been told you have a couple comments with regards to this ruling.
Yeah, just as a guy who's been in since the beginning of this thing, right? And a special advisor, asshole wife, douchebag, 2020 champion. I feel like my opinion is very well respected within the Moose Knuckle committee. So, as many who probably don't listen, Mr. Beaumont Pagel owns Evans' pick this year, which ends up being the first overall pick. So, a little conflict of interest there. I think as an amazing league that this is, I think there's a few of us within the league who I've spoken to, my sources, have you. They're very disappointed that they did not have a say in how this would go. So, we vote on everything in this league. We vote for, hey, are we going full point or half point? Hey, what are we doing for this, that? I think it's just a lot of people feel slighted. And, as a person who, hey, I would have had second overall pick if we, go by the new things. I'm okay with my draft slot at 13. Like, I'm not arguing that at all. That's where I wanted to be. I would have picked 14 if it wasn't for Tony. So, it's no big deal, but I just feel like our opinions were not heard. And again, my sources also confirm the same. So that's it.
Hey, Tony, how you feel about your 14th slot?
All good. All good points. And I certainly understand both sides. I could see it teeter-tottering. And I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a democracy, right? We don't want our draft day to turn out like January 6th, right? And so therefore, if you are listening, league, maybe you can take this to the chat a little bit and petition your commissioners if there is a consensus that thinks it should be redone, then maybe it needs to be considered. But as the 101 or 114 per my choice, I'm gonna vote against that. So.
Like I said, there's people in this league who may vote for it. They may vote against it. I just think that there's a couple people within the chats who were vocal. If you go back and look at it, so I just think that their voices want to be heard, and I think that as how great this league is, that they deserve to be heard.
It's the greatest league in the world, but the commish rules with an iron fist sometimes, and he threw down the law. Hey, guys, leave a comment if you're watching YouTube down below on how you guys determine draft order. Maybe we need to shake things up a little bit in the Moose Knuckle League. We care about your thoughts, so leave a comment, and we'll see if we got it right.
I definitely think that heading into 2023, there will be people who are interested in changing the method that we do it. So very excited to see what our listeners chime in with.
Me as well. I tune into NASCAR once a year, and that was it. So, well,
hey, but shout out to Christopher Bell though. I got shout out to CB. Like I've never heard of you. I went to FanDuel, and you paid off at 2,100 odds. So good job.
so you used FanDuel, and so did Reese for the rules. That's why I'll leave that. But but let's move on from NASCAR rankings to our consensus top 15 wide receiver rankings. You guys, I know you guys have been waiting long and hard for this, at least a week. So let's get right into it. The top of our list is none other than, drumroll please, Cooper Kupp. Oh yeah. Chris, you had him at 2. Matt, you had him at 2, and I had him at 1. I mean, the man was the 2021 ranked number 1 wide receiver, so why move him? That was my thought. Nothing's changed. Actually, they probably lost some talent there. So maybe he gets more targets. But I'll open it to you guys. What do you guys think?
There's not much bad things you could say about Cooper Kupp. He led the NFL in targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns, en route to averaging 25.9 PPR fantasy points per game. That's bananas, you guys. He had the greatest fantasy wide receiver season of all time. So the only thing I can say is it's nearly impossible to repeat a season like that statistically, but he'll still give you a solid return even at that draft cost, which in most redraft leagues is going to be a top 4, 5, top 6 pick, maybe at most. So you're going to have to invest that, but Kupp will surely deliver.
Agreed. Like he can't go up. Unfortunately he could have a great season and be number 2. He had an amazing season last year. Dietrich already hit it. I think Allen Robinson's gonna have a bounce back year this year. So I think he's gonna eat up a lot of targets. Cam Akers is back for a full season. I just don't think he can repeat, sadly. But again, at 2, great.
Speaking of someone who can go up, at our 2 spot, we have Jamar Chase. In 21, he was ranked 5th wide receiver. Chris, you have him at 1. Matt, you have him at 3, and I have him at 2. Chris, you're high on him. Let's hear what you got for Jamar Chase.
Unbelievable rookie season. Can't say enough about it. I think the Bengals are a very well-oiled machine after losing in the Super Bowl. I expect Jamar Chase to get his and have a better second year than even Justin Jefferson had his second year last year. So he's kind of on that pace with Justin Jefferson, and I think that his first 2 years are going to be better than Justin Jefferson's first 2 years. And for that to happen, I think he's going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, Tony. He finished as the wide receiver 5, and he was a 21-year-old rookie, averaging almost 18 points a game. So I honestly think his floor could be that 2021 season finish. So he's gonna be a top 3 wideout.
Yeah, I agree. Being at the 5 spot, looking at how many receptions he had, 81 compared to, let's say, Cooper Kupp's 145. A lot of room to improve there, right? In his second year, Joey B's getting a lot of help on the line this year, give him more time in the pocket. Jamar Chase, he had one concern I have is like yards per reception, 18 yards. It was very high. There's only one other person, I'll mention that later, that had one higher in the top 15. But even if that comes down a little bit, he's still my number 2. So at number 3, I know we mentioned this guy last week as somebody's number 1. Justin Jefferson came in at the number 3 spot for us. Chris, you nailed it at 3. Matt, 1. And myself 3 as well. Matt, you're high on him at the number 1 spot. Tell me everything I need to know about Mr. Jefferson.
Yeah, I might have touched on much of my highlights in last week's episode, but 23 years old, coming off a 30% target share last season. I think the Vikings are going to open up and throw more. year 3 is where you're going to see even more advancement in Justin Jefferson's game. He'll be eligible for a new contract after this season as well. So he wants to be in that conversation with Davante Adams as the league's top dog. Well, I and many others are going to give him a chance to do that. So I think we'll see him ball out this season.
Yeah, I agree. In my projections, I kind of just kept him flat year over year. A lot has changed on that offense, right? He's just kind of going to come in and do Justin Jefferson things. So for me, Cooper Kupp and Jamar Chase, I think are just taking a step up, and Justin's going to be right there. How about you, Chris?
There's nothing I can say. I love the guy. I just couldn't put him at 1 or 2 because I have him on my team this year. So if he finishes at 3, I'm content with that. I feel like the only reason why DJ put him at 1 is to, get under my skin this year, which he may have. But, I saw that face. So, no, I'm good.
All right. Moving on to our number 4, we have Stephon Diggs. Chris, you had him at 4, Matt at 5, and I had him at 5 as well. At the 5 spot, we're not far off. Definitely a good offense to be on, Stephon. I took him up a little bit with the vacated Beasley. He should be getting more targets. I think they're going to they have some redemption. I can't believe they haven't made it to the ship yet, with this team. And they just keep getting better. So, I think that bodes well for Stephon being there. And how about you, Matt?
He's a playmaker. The Bills aren't afraid to air it out. And even in winning or neutral game scripts, they stick to the pass game. And we all know that Josh Allen can certainly sling it. If you're telling me that 16.8 points per game is his floor again this season, which I think it can be, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, I love Diggs. He had a considered an off year for him last year, but I think he gets back to that 2020 form where he was like the number 3 wide receiver in fantasy. And the Bills are like my pick in the AFC this year to go to the Super Bowl. And like I said, for Stephon he's going to have to contribute for that to happen. So I think he gets back to that 2020 form. And Gabriel Davis probably steps up as well a little bit, but no, I love Diggs this year.
Awesome. At the number 5, we have Davante Adams. This guy was the 3rd last year? What happened? He changed teams. Chris, you have him at the 5 spot, Matt at the 4, and I'm a little bit lower on him at the 8. So we'll start at, hey, Chris or Matt, who you want to take this and preach positive things about Davante Adams this year?
I'll give it to Matt.
Well, I still have Davante Adams ranked high. This guy is the definition of elite. The quarterback was downgraded for Davante, and it's difficult to imagine a 30% target share like in Green Bay, but Derek Carr's never had anyone like Adams lined up out wide. He's had a tough season. Think of last year with Waller getting injured throughout the year, Henry Ruggs' situation, and he tried to make the most out of it with Hunter Renfrow, and did with a 10-win season and a second-place finish in that tough AFC West. So I have no doubts that Adams picks up the Vegas playbook quickly. Josh McDaniels has some plays dialed up for Adams this year. You guys know he does. And I still draft him with confidence.
Yeah, if Davante has never had such a great wide receiver corps in his career, like if he's got a solid tight end in Waller, I think it's just going to open up for him and it's just going to explode. And he's just going to be able to, get single coverage because they got to look out for Waller. So for him to, get it at 5, I think that might be a little high for me now that looking back at it, but he's still Davante Adams, guys. Like this guy has had consistency of a top 3 wide receiver the last few years, and I can't expect him to take that big of a drop when he goes back to Derek Carr.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Derek Carr, he started out as like most yards in the season first for a couple of weeks. He was just slinging the ball there, but Josh McDaniels coming in and having a new wide receiver there, and Davante Adams, not that he's not fully capable, he's a physical specimen, just kind of drops him down a couple ranks for me. Not too many pieces around him, but Waller is a ball hog there, so we'll see what that looks like. And I think not that New England's style could not develop maybe a top 10 wide receiver. But, when's the last top 10 wide receiver you had? Maybe on a PPR out of New England, it could be one of the guys crossing. But, it's just a different kind of offense coming in there, and they got to learn that. So,
Tony, I agree with you 100%. And I was just going to search the last top wide receiver I could think for the Patriots was Randy Moss in 2007. I have no idea if McDaniels was the offensive coordinator or not. Dietrich, maybe you know that.
I was thinking Randy Moss as well. I think Amendola had a couple of promising seasons with the team as well. He was always kind of that underneath route guy that kind of was a nice PPR magnet throughout his career.
And so McDaniels was the OC in 2007 for them. So, yeah, maybe Devontae can have a 20 touchdown season this year. Who knows?
We'll see.
But I don't think Carr is Brady.
Yeah, right. Man gets it done. And he's handsome. And he's still in the league. All right. Moving on. Past the fifth. We're moving on to the sixth to CD Lamb. So we got a bit of a flip-flop here between Chris and Tony. Chris, you're a lot lower on CD than I am at the 10 spot. Matt, you're at 6, right on the nose, and I'm at 4. So I could go first since I'm high on CD. The vacated spot. He's totally blanking on his name. Amari Cooper.
Cooper.
Yeah. Leaving that's a lot of vacated volume there, right? And I think Dallas is a great offensive team. We did see Michael Gallup trend here at the end of last year, so he could definitely eat into that work. It could bring him down. They could be a lot closer in the standings by the end of the year. But I think he's going to feast. He had only 79 receptions last year. I could see that easily going to maybe 110 with Amari out, and maybe he falls in the end zone 2 more times from 6 to 8 touchdowns, and that's how you get there. So, who wants to take it? The middle of the road guy, Matt, or Chris?
Chris, your ranking of CD Lamb, you should be promptly arrested, good sir, because. Tony touched on it with the departure of Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup set to miss the start of the season. I think this just paves the way for CD to be that alpha, and he's very capable. I think 25% target share in Dallas is well within the cards for CD. I mentioned in last week's episode that Mike McCarthy just can't help himself. He wants to bomb it out, and those connections will often be Dak to CD. I'm high on CD, Zeke, and Dalton Schultz. I think they will all have a nice return on investment this year.
We'll save the running back comment for next week, buddy. But yes, again, CD came from that Justin Jefferson draft class, so I always look at them together. And I know Dak was injured for a little bit, but CD just hasn't done it for me, and maybe it's a breakout year for him. And it's not that I don't like CD, I guess. It's one of those things that I just like the other wide receivers better. And I just think it's a very deep class. And if I'm drafting kind of where he's getting drafted, I'd feel much more comfortable going with a Mike Evans or even a Tyreek Hill. Even though I know Tyreek has changed teams, I'll talk to him in a second. But I just feel more comfortable drafting with someone who's had a little fancy production that high.
Much like our next wide receiver, Deebo Samuel at the consensus 7 spot. You have him ranked above CD Lamb at the 6 spot, Chris. Matt, you have him at 7, and I have him at 10. So you want to talk a little bit about why you take Deebo over maybe CD?
Deebo reported. And I think, that was huge for me. That was huge for me. And selecting at 13, if Deebo's there, I am going to consider definitely taking him. I really like him. Tony, he was on your team last year. You know all about Deebo. And I think he will be better with Trey Lance than he was with Jimmy G. I do love Deebo.
Matt, you were still high on him. Anything to add?
This is probably for me personally, my scariest ranked player on the list. And it's not because of the talent, because Debo is a man, but he doesn't want to be used as a running back anymore. With Trey Lance starting, they may open the season a little bit more run heavy. So those are my concerns. But Debo is an elite talent, and he feels like he breaks 20 fantasy points a week without breaking a sweat. So stay healthy, stay productive, Debo.
Exactly my thoughts. He was adamant about not being part of the run game, or at least to the tune of 59 attempts last year, right? So I definitely don't have him slated at 0 attempts. He was at 365 yards last year. I've got him down at 74 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns last year, down to about 2. And he fumbled 4 times, maybe he just fumbles once. And I do agree. I think he's going to thrive with Lance. I think he's going to get more. He had 77 receptions. I got him up at 85 and a couple more touchdowns on the receiving game. But that still slates him at the 10 spot for me because I was talking about Jamar Chase earlier having yards per reception at 18. Debo was at 18.2 last year. I mean, that's astronomical above the likes of Cooper Kupp at 13 or Justin Jefferson at 15. That's just off the charts. So, I think some of his targets come down a little bit. Maybe they play some, pitch out game with him and he's able to get some yards. But I just think it's going to be a different game with Trey Lance. And we'll see what it kind of comes out to. Moving on to our number 8 wide receiver, we got Mike Evans. Chris, you were at 7. Matt at 11, and I also was at 7. Mike Evans, where did he finish last year? He was the 8. So we're kind of right where he was last year at 7. Maybe he gets a little bit bump because Godwin's out. Julio's coming to town, so maybe that eats into it. Probably not a lot. Dude's young and athletic, but I see him maybe get a little bump with Godwin out, but kind of doing the same. Maybe I'm a little low on him with Gronkowski out as well, but Chris, anything to add since you were at the 7 as well?
Yeah, I think in terms of receptions, I thought he was low last year. Out of the top 10 wide receivers last year, he only had 74 receptions, barely over 1,000 yards. And what got him into that top 10 level was the touchdowns. He had 14 of them, right? So I think if he evens out and catches more balls, goes for more yards, and even drops the touchdowns from 14 to 10, he's in that 7th spot easily. And I think Godwin being out, you mentioned Gronk, retiring this year. His boy AB is, doing rap concerts. He's got to build the chemistry with Julio, which isn't there yet. He's got to, Mike Evans is the guy. Mike and Brady is pissed off. This is probably his last year. Mike Evans is going to eat.
Mike Evans has been Mr. 1,000-yard season for years now. And just a few weeks ago, I think I felt pretty good selecting Evans, but his ADP is climbing to a place where I think it might be a little outside my comfort level. There's just a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa and only one football. You guys mentioned Godwin, but he didn't start the camp on the PUP, which was a little surprising to some. So maybe he's on track to return a little sooner than later. And then the signings of Julio, Russell Gage, Kyle Rudolph, probably a Gronk appearance if we're being honest with ourselves later in the year, guys. And Brady's about to turn 45 years old. Todd Bowles is the coach now, 26-41 in his coaching career. I think this team looks different with him leading it versus Arians, and that's the reason why I have a little bit of a dip on Mike Evans this year.
See, that's the second time in this show. You said it last week too. You're concerned about Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, I don't think, has anything to do with the offense. This is Byron Leftwich and Brady. And to be honest with you, this is Brady's offense. I don't think Todd Bowles is touching the offense at all. He's lucky to inherit this team. If he goes in there and starts changing the offensive schemes, they're going to be in big trouble. Just let them cruise control on the offensive side. And if so, Todd Bowles has a chance to win a Super Bowl. Look, I got asterisk Super Bowl.
When you stated that, I thought you were going to say this is the second time you poo-pooed Tom Brady, but you went Todd Bowles, so he's poo-pooed two people in recent weeks.
He doesn't like TBs at all. Tom Brady, Todd Bowles, Tampa Bay. He is not about the TBs.
Yeah, I'm out. And then we got Fournette that's still in fat camp. I mean, nobody's ready. Nobody's ready over there. I can't trust anybody in Tampa.
Oh, man. All right, let's move on to our ninth pick, Tyreek Hill. So we are all fading him, being ranked 6th in 2021. What happened there, too? Did he move teams? I don't know. Chris, you have him at 8, Matt at 9, and myself at 11. Matt, I haven't started with you. You're right there with Chris. How you feeling about Tyreek Hill this year?
I don't have that much concern. People seem to fear moving away from Mahomes will plummet Hill's value. I mean, Tyreek had Alex Smith bombing him the ball not that long ago, and it was still working out. So Tua can do it too. If I can quote a Chris Barker, buy the dip. Hill can make magic on this Dolphins team. And for those with the Weibos to go wide receiver, and get Hill as your second wideout potentially, that's mouth-watering good to me.
Gosh. Every single time I log on to Twitter, I feel like Tyreek Hill is saying Tua is the most accurate quarterback in the league, right? Is he just blowing smoke up all of our asses, or is this legit? New coach down there in McDaniels, I think if Tyreek Hill goes into that Deebo Samuel role, even with the Mahomes, not having Mahomes as the quarterback anymore, I still like him as a top 10 lock for wide receiver. So if you're not buying that dip, I will then.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing the same thing. Giving the Heisman to the haters and all this stuff, and I can't wait to see some Miami ball. They have a lot of mouths to feed. That's why I can't just give Tyreek high regards there, but I think it's going to be an exciting offense to watch. And yeah, it's not like I poo-pooed him too much from last year, but that's just kind of where he fell in the stats. Let's round out our top 10, boys. We got Keenan Allen at the bottom of our top 10. Chris, you have him at 9. Matt, he barely broke your top 15. And I also have him at 12. Chris, you're high on him. And you're choking over there. Care to tell us what's going on, bud?
God, 15, huh? No, I love Keenan Allen. I'd pick Justin Jefferson to be number 1 quarterback this year in fantasy football. Keenan Allen is just Mr. Consistent. He's probably one of the most underrated wide receivers in fantasy football. What did he finish last year, Tony? He finished 11, 106 receptions, and only 6 touchdowns. So, I think he can get more than 6 touchdowns. If he gets more than that 6 touchdowns, I think him falling within that 10 slot is very reasonable. He's not a touchdown getter, so hopefully if he gets to at least 8 or 9 this year, he'll finish in the top 10.
Yeah, real quick, I had him at same receptions. I said he only had 10 yards per reception, so I bumped that up a bit and gave him 2 more touchdowns. I got him to my ranking of 12. So, Matt, you were the worst on him. How you feeling?
Just a little bit out of wide receiver 1 status because I got another Chargers wide receiver ranked a little higher than him. Maybe we'll get to him later, but yeah, to your guys' point, Mr. Consistent, old reliable, call him what you want to call him. Keenan Allen has finished as the wide receiver 14 or better every year since 2017. He posts 17 PPR points a game. Allen's weekly average is one of the highest in the NFL, so he's been a staple of that Chargers offense, and I don't see the wheels falling off this season either. I think he'll be right there. He's going to be back-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2.
That's fair. He's still up there. All right, moving on to number 11. Ooh, Michael Pittman Jr., boys. Chris, you had him at 11. Matt, you had him at 10. And I was fading him a little bit more at 16, so just out of our top 15. Matt, you had him the highest. How you feeling?
I'm feeling like I need a Pittman jersey. Matt Ryan moving to Indy is a bigger deal than I think people say it is. Matt Ryan always locks onto a wide receiver 1 and gives them a 1,000-yard season. Pittman got 88 catches and 1,000 yards with Wentz, so it's only going up from here. Pittman is evolving into that tier 2 status of wideouts, I think. So maybe not the big three that we talked about earlier, but right behind them, he's got that Steph Diggs territory in my eyes.
Oh, yeah. Like, from his rookie season, he doubled his yards. He went from 1 touchdown to 6. He upgrades at quarterback. I mean, this is his third quarterback in 3 years, right? He went from, Wentz now to Matt Ryan, who's been to a Super Bowl, who, like you said, has played with wide receivers like Calvin Ridley and Julio in his prime. I love Pittman this year.
Agreed. I don't mean to poo-poo him at 16, and I do agree that I love seeing Matt Ryan there. I think there's going to be some good things coming out of Indy. I just see them as a run-first kind of offense. They did bring on Alec Pierce as a rookie, and they got big boy Mo Alley Cox to throw to over there. So just don't see him getting as much volume as I saw some of maybe my top 15 guys, but do not mean to poo-poo him at any point. But moving on to our 12 spot, we got Mike Williams. So just coming off of another Chargers wide receiver, we quickly find our second here in the top 15. Chris, you did not rank him in your top 15. Matt, you had him at 8, and I was surprised that you ranked him higher than me, who had him at 9. Man, I thought I was high on Mike Williams, but you take the cake, man. Tell me all about Mike.
Well, we probably get to share the same reasons, but Tony, you get to keep Mike Williams in our league, which I think is a tremendous add. And his ADP maybe trends a little high, could be a little scary to some folks, but I'd still grab him at that going rate. I think his consistency just keeps to be trending up and dependable. And oddly enough, he's kind of morphing into the Keenan Allen role of the Chargers offense. Do you see it the same way, Tony?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mike Williams, let's see, he was in 16 games, started 14 of them. I am maybe getting 90 receptions out of the 76 he had last year out of 129 targets. What I really jumped off the page to me was his yards per reception were 15 compared to Keenan's. I think it was like 10. So he's the guy getting the yardage, right? He's the guy probably getting the big throws down the field and getting up and getting those. So that's going to continue, and we might see more of that as him and Herbert become accustomed with each other. So I'm excited for his future, but don't mean to poo-poo Keenan at all in that sense, because it's going to be a good 1A, 1B there. For not ranking him though, Chris, man, what say you?
He was probably 16 for me, honestly. Like, I just think wide receiver is so deep this year, and he's probably 16 for me, Tom. Like, it's no diss on him. I think Herbert is, again, being in the Herbert, drum, he's going to have 2 top 20 wide receivers guaranteed. For him to fall at between 16 and 20 is no diss to him. So,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. You get the pass. Moving on to 13, we got A.J. Brown. Chris, you were 12th on A.J. Matt, you were 14th, and I was 18, much lower than you guys. Chris being the higher. Let's go.
Yeah, so different quarterback. I actually think Jalen Hurts is an improvement over Tannehill, and I think A.J. Brown finally gets the 1B wide receiver that they were trying to pair him up with Julio last year that didn't work out in Devonta Smith. So I think the Eagles are going to open up the game with both them. They still have Goddard at tight end as the safety blanket. I really like the receiving corps out of there, plus the pass-catching running backs with Kenneth Gainwell. Eagles can be a very explosive offense this year and, could compete with Dallas for that division.
Yeah, well said, Chris. The Eagles' offense is interesting. I think the pass game got a massive upgrade with A.J. Brown. Plenty of folks thought the Eagles might use one of their first-round picks on a receiver, but instead they traded away to number 18 to the Titans to land Brown, and they gave him a $100 million contract. So because of that, there's no learning curve with a rookie. It's just all gas, no brakes for Philadelphia. So I think he leads the league. I'm pretty sure A.J. Brown leads the league in 50-yard reception since he joined the NFL. So big electric plays. You get this guy as a wide receiver too. It's all gravy, Tony.
I like it. I definitely, again, not trying to poo-poo AJ, but that offense, runs on Jalen Hurts. And speaking of run, that man runs, right? And you don't see, I don't think we even ranked a Baltimore wide receiver here in our top 15. So, why does AJ break the top 15? I know he's pretty close there, but and I think there's more mouths to feed in Philly than there would be, say, a Baltimore, where you have Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins. Don't forget Dallas Goedert, who was a great tight end there. And then all the pass catching running backs there. So I just see a lot of mouths to feed. I'm not sure that he can crack my top 15 because of that. Great talent, though. At the 14 spot, we have T. Higgins. Chris, again, did not rank T. Higgins. Matt at the 12 spot, and Tony at the 13 spot. Matt, you love some T a little bit more than me, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, he's coming off a great sophomore season. He had 1,091 yards in just 14 games played. He only had 6 touchdowns, so I'd like to see those numbers kind of increase a bit, but he's looking for a contract extension like many others we've covered on the pod today. So that's next offseason. So that's extra added motivation for T. Higgins. I think Higgins and Chase both finish as wide receiver ones, and there's just enough offensive firepower on this Bengals team to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it. He's only played 14 games last year, so he's going to get those more receptions, more yards, and give him another touchdown, man. He's going to be great in that high-powered offense. But I don't think Chris feels the same. Chris?
I'm so high on Chase. I'm just as high on as Tyler Boyd. And they still have Joe Mixon. Why am I getting the thumbs down?
Because we ranked him.
Why am I getting the thumbs down?
Because we ranked him and you didn't.
No, I totally get it. And hey, I'll make fun of you, Tony, in a second. So let me cut the spiel. T. Higgins he would be a top wide receiver on multiple teams. He's under the Jamar Chase. I think he'll fall about 17 to 18 as well. But Jamar Chase is the first look in that offense, and he's just not going to crack the top 15 for me. Sorry.
All right. And here is Chris's big opportunity to apparently make fun of me for bringing this wide receiver up at number 15. So Chris nor Matt did not rank this wide receiver, but because of my 6th pick him as the 6th wide receiver on the year, that brought him up to our 15th spot. So I was highest on him. Looks like I am in the hot seat. So let's look at his performance last year. He was about the 19th wide receiver on the year with can anyone remind me who was throwing the ball to DJ Moore last year?
Cam Newton for a little bit.
Sam Darnold for a little bit.
Sam freaking Darnold, right. And we got a new and, in my opinion, better quarterback in town now in God, my names are fucking
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield, thank you, baby. So I think he's going to do much better. Even with Sam Darnold, he had 163 targets last year, right, with 93 receptions. If he's able to catch 120 of 163, maybe he even gets more targets than that. He even had an 1,100-yard season last year. I mean, he is poised to do so much better under Baker than he was with Sam Darnold. The one thing I think keeping him down, he only had 4 touchdowns. Let's double that, give him 4 touchdowns, and he's, boom, my 6th wide receiver on the year.
To be fair, Carolina probably only scored 10 touchdowns all year. So if he got 4 of them, that's a pretty good chunk. I'm betting high on Christian McCaffrey return this year. And I think when he last played, he caught over 110 balls. And the offense runs through him. So not that DJ can't be top 20. I think he'd crack my top 20. But if Christian plays 17 games, I think he's no shot. No shot at 6, Tony. I'll bet that right now.
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it too. He'll be in my top 20 rankings, but it hurts me to say it though, because DJ Moore is such an incredible talent, and he's just never had an elite quarterback throwing him the ball. And hopefully that changes with Baker under center, and he launches his, up into wide receiver 1 status, but it's not going to be reflective on my rankings. I'd like to see that offense kind of shape out, and I think a lot of it is going to be McCaffrey, like you said, Chris.
Is anyone willing to bet me that DJ Moore will be a top 15 wide receiver?
Hold up. You said he was going to be 6. I'll give you top 10. I don't say no to top 10.
Well, you didn't rank him in the top 15, so I thought that was a given. Top 10?
I mean, I also didn't think Jalen Waddle was going to finish in the top 20 last year. So I've been there before.
Yeah. Good call. Give me 12 and you got yourself a bet.
12 for 20?
Yep.
All right, and
all right, put it on the board. Woo-hoo. All right. Well, that concludes our top 15 results. I hope this helps you. This is purely for entertainment value. This is not financial advice. La da 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 da. Yeah.
Guys, you guys were criminal to one wide receiver that I feel like we need to mention. And you guys never ranked Brandon Cooks. I think that Brandon Cooks is probably the most underrated player in the NFL. 1,000-yard season 6 times in the last 8 years, and you guys don't even show him any love on the rankings. What gives? What makes him even more impressive is he's done it with 4 different teams and some extremely questionable quarterback play. There's a serious lack of receivers in Houston, guys. It's got to be Cooks. He's got to do it again. No respect. Shout out Rodney Dangerfield, but no respect.
No respect.
Like you said, he's going to get a ton of garbage time too in Houston, right? Like they're going to be down there, be throwing the ball all second half. Like, I love Brandon Cooks. You're absolutely right. And I've had him on one years. I can't remember what team he was on, but he was on my team, and he can catch 100 balls easily every season.
He's about as consistent as they come, and you always get him at a value. So, I mean, that's why he doesn't break your top 15, because he is a value, and he just shows up, man. It's amazing.
If I can get Brandon Cooks as, sorry.
The quarterback is the only, he did well last year. We got to see how he does this year, right?
If I can get him as a number 2 wide receiver, I'm jacked.
Absolutely. Would you have Matt?
I have Brandon Cooks at number 13.
13. Yeah. And I think some honorary mentions. Chris, you had Cortland Sutton at 14. We don't know what's going to happen in Denver, but certainly one of those two could break out in Denver. We just don't know who and when, what that looks like.
Yeah, so my honorable mentions that didn't get mentioned, I think Scary Terry finally having a decent quarterback with Carson Wentz in Washington could have a great season. He got a new contract this offseason. We talked about it before the show. Tony just mentioned it. Have no idea who's going to be the number 1 in Denver, but could be a Lockett, Metcalf sort of thing. And I saw Jalen Waddle in at 15 just because he screwed me last year, and I got to show him respect.
To round out my top 15, I had Darnell Mooney, which definitely raised a lot of eyebrows here on the pod. But I mean, the man has a lot of vacated volume that he can take advantage of. Even with Allen Robinson there last year, he had 140 targets. So he's the number 1 man there. Let's say he caught 81 of them. He caught 95 this upcoming year. And he only was in the end zone 4 times, so give him 6, and he easily cracks my top 15. And he showed up big, boys. He showed up ready. He showed up to camp with some weight. And then to round out my top 15, my old favorite quarterback, Mr. Trubisky's throwing to Deontay Johnson this year. I mean, I think I'm glad to see him get a starting role down there, and I think Deontay Johnson can perform. And a lot of mouths to feed there, but I think Trubisky can latch on to a wide receiver and help him, and Deontay is probably that one.
Yeah, whether it's Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, I think Deontay could be a value in drafts.
Yeah, and the funny thing coming out of Pittsburgh is that they gave Trubisky, first team snaps, and I guess a fan was already yelling, "Bring in Pickett!" And so Tomlin listened to the fan, and Pickett, got onto the field. I don't know how he did, but made me laugh. Dietrich, no comment on the Mooney top 15?
I'll let that one go. We'll just let that marinate a little bit.
I can't be the only one doing board bets here, man.
You got me with Zach Wilson bets on the first episode of season 2, so I think that's good enough for me.
It'll all come out even in the wash. Don't worry, boys.
Guys, unbelievable rookie class this year, and like all of us, we're trying to strike gold with the next CeeDee Lamb, the next Justin Jefferson, in like that 7th to 10th round to try to get a second round wide receiver to be a keeper for next season. Matt, I'll start with you. Are there any couple wide receivers that you'd be targeting to try to get as a keeper for next year for rookies?
Well, I jumped in the show doc quick because I wanted to make a note of wide receiver Christian Watson for the Green Bay Packers, but now we got some news that came out that says he's going to be starting on the PUP list for camp, so with an undisclosed injury for the Green Bay rookie wideout. So that's a little concerning, but Christian Watson just has unbelievable blazing speed. I think he ran a 4.36 40-yard dash, which is like in the 92nd percentile. And his size is absolutely ludicrous. He's 6'4", 208 pounds. So this man is just a freak in nature. They got him in the round 2, but I think he's round 1 draft capital as a wide receiver. He gets comps that says he looks like Devontae Parker on the field. So that's before all the lower body injuries Devontae Parker has suffered. But no, I like Christian Watson. I think he has a chance to shine in Green Bay and become that number 1 wideout. Somebody's got to step up. And my other honorable mention was wide receiver Jalen Tolbert for the Dallas Cowboys. I think with Gallup and Amari Cooper, those vacated targets and Gallup sitting for the first half of the season or first few games, Jalen Tolbert's got a chance to step up. He was a mega producer, albeit in a small school of South Alabama, but I think he understands how to get open deep. I think he's had comps similar to Adam Thielen in that fashion. So Adam Thielen's a producer, so I think Jalen Tolbert might surprise people in his rookie season.
Nice pick. Sorry to hear about the PUP for your home team, my friend. It's a hard break. You need those wide receivers, especially because you guys missed on Julio.
We need somebody running routes. It's going to be a 49-year-old Randall Cobb catching everything.
Dietrich, you should check and see if they have open tryouts, man. I've seen you run a post route, and it's sexy.
Thanks, bud.
Tony, how about you, bud?
Yeah, I kind of went deep on my picks. I think I'll take George Pickens from Pittsburgh Steelers. I talked a little bit about Pittsburgh and Trubisky being there, but just overall as an organization, Steelers do really well with young talent. You think of the likes of Juju and Claypool and now Deontay Johnson, and again Trubisky at quarterback. Man, he's not bad. He's serviceable. He can run out and create some time in the pocket. And for my second, I'll take Khalil Shakir out of the Buffalo Bills. With Beasley's departure, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit of vacated volume there. In a passing offense, who else is there? Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Jamison Crowder. Maybe Gabe Davis doesn't show up or do what they want him to do. You could see Khalil kind of jump in there. So not a starting week 1 type of guy. You're gonna need someone to kind of vacate a spot, or maybe he's in 5 wides, but someone to definitely pay attention to.
Nice. And I decided to talk about this segment. You guys put your wide receivers in. I got in late, but you guys gave me the gift of giving me 2 easy ones. Thank you. I'm going to take the boys out of OSU, the Ohio State University. Garrett Wilson with the Jets. I think he's slotted in, goes into number one. Their depth chart is nothing crazy at wide receiver. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. I think he's got a chance to be the number one guy there for Zach Wilson. And then Chris Olave. Jameis Winston comes back. Kamara may be suspended from his incident. They're still going through that. That he could miss some time. Michael Thomas hasn't been the same since 2019. And his quarterback was Drew Brees then. They also have Jarvis Landry, who could be a PPR monster and get the catches. But I think Chris Olave has a chance to, at least towards the end of this season, be the number one guy for this season late. And then obviously moving forward. So if you're able to get him late and capitalize in the playoff run and then go into the next season as, I guess, maybe a 6-round keeper, at least by our rules, I think it's going to be really good for you.
Great work, boys. We've given an hour of juicy content to the fans. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to follow us, mooseknucklers.com. Check us out on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Please leave a comment. Let us know your feedback. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. Any parting words from Tony, Chris?
See you boys in August.
Yeah, see you guys for the draft. And hopefully, Powerball is on Friday, and if we win, we're gonna do another upgrade for this show, right, guys? So
there'll be giveaways for sure.
Giveaways, we're gonna blow the hell out of this thing. So that's enough for me.
All right, for Chris, for Tony, I'm Matt. See you guys next time. Peace out.